Okay, so we're looking at IELTS Task 2. The pattern is discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, so you're looking to discuss the pros and cons, the positives and the negatives, and then come to some kind of judgment. Are the positives stronger than the negatives? Are there more positives than the negatives? Okay, so let's look at the topic. In some countries, young people are encouraged to work or travel for a year between finishing high school and starting university studies. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages for young people who decide to do this. Okay, so work or travel for a year between finishing high school and starting university. In the UK, this is pretty common. We call it a gap year. Or you might just call it, I took a year out between school and university. It's common, usually people are working at least some part of the year, like a part-time job or an internship or a full-time job, or people are using it to sort of work a bit and then travel. So some people I know go to Australia for like a year's working visa, or would travel around Europe and sort of work for a couple of months in different cities. So that's the topic that you're being asked to discuss. Okay, so let's take a look at what this candidate's written. Recently, the issue of the gap year has become the subject of heated debate. Some people insist that some countries recommend high school graduates to work or travel around for 1 year before entering university, while others argue otherwise. And I wholeheartedly agree with the former stand. Okay, well, this is a weird and here. Okay, so this should either be linked to this sentence or we should change it to a different linking word. In the following essay, both fields will be discussed before a conclusion is reached with my own opinion. Okay, so this is okay as the introduction goes. They've set up the issue to be discussed. They've given their opinion. So the two most important things to do in an introduction. I can already feel, though, that this is perhaps one of those candidates who's trying really hard to use very, very formal vocabulary, and it sounds a little bit strange the way they phrased it. Because the types of words they're using are too formal or not quite correct. So this is the kind of feeling I get from this candidate. Let's see what they've written. On the one hand, those who claim that students go to university immediately, who claim that students going to university immediately is more beneficial for them. Do so for several reasons. Okay, this is actually a nice phrase. Do so for several reasons. I like that phrase. It's very natural. It's like a native speaker kind of phrase. Proponents of this argument, again, nice linking, insist that if young people have rest and experience before going to university, they will be a year behind their studies more than others. But this sounds positive. If young people have rest and experience, those are kind of like very positive terms, aren't they? They will be a year behind in their studies more than others. So this change surprised me because the first half of the sentence sounded positive and then they give me a negative. So it surprised me getting to the end of that sentence. If young people, and I would just kind of, maybe you want to make this sound more negative. Young people waste a year doing nothing productive. Maybe. This means they are going to, so don't forget to be formal, gonna is too informal, going to graduate from their university a year later. Also, the ability to acquire knowledge may decrease because they didn't study for a year. Given these points, some people hold the view that, okay, so I think maybe this has been mistakenly copied and pasted over into this PowerPoint. How harsh. If you take a year out, you become more stupid. It's quite a harsh take on it. So yeah, we've got some nice phrasing. We've got some nice linking. They have explained. I would like to see an example, perhaps, of some kind of study or newspaper survey that found that people felt like this or didn't like this, or students who had a gap year did worse in their degrees than students who didn't have a gap year. So I just want to see this extended a little bit. I think it's a little bit short for body one. My opinion, however, is that the benefits of a gap year are more significant. Perhaps the principal advantage is that they can find their aptitudes and they can have valuable experiences. Another benefit is that by pre-studying their majors, they can find out whether it is suitable for them or not. Moreover, even if they haven't experienced much for a year is not that long, so it doesn't have a negative impact. So it doesn't have a major, so it won't have a major negative impact. In light of the above, I find this argument more persuasive. Okay. Yeah, I think this is actually a pretty solid paragraph. We've got some nice phrases here. Perhaps the principal advantage is they can find opportunities and they can have valuable experiences pre-studying their majors. So it doesn't have so I think overall this is actually pretty nicely argued. Body 2. Again, is it a little bit short? I mean, yeah, it's a little bit short. Again, you could sort of add in an example here or some evidence, perhaps, to sort of boost it up a bit. So that's kind of what it's missing. In conclusion, it is undeniable that there are a variety of opinions about this topic. However, after considering this matter in a careful manner, I fully support the view that something for the reasons discussed above. So I think this is just a draft that got sent in by mistake. So overall, I mean, I feel like I prejudged from the introduction to say that I thought it was going to be a little bit, the vocabulary was going to be a little bit too fancy, but they actually used the vocabulary quite well, and especially body 2 in the conclusion were quite nice. So in terms of task achievement, they did address both sides of the argument. They explained their reasoning a little bit, and they had an introduction and a conclusion. I think they could have improved by, it's just extending, it's writing a little bit more, and it's explaining your thinking, the reasoning behind your thinking a little bit more, which is getting very deep into sort of, why is this true? Or why is this not true? Okay. Show me linking your ideas. Okay, so using cause and effect language. Therefore, this happens, therefore the students will be like this, and that will have a consequence of blank. So you're kind of creating more like a logical chain sentence. So that's going to sort of help expand that. But overall, I think task achievement, I would probably give a 6.5. And like I said, more examples and more explanation. Coherence and cohesion, it was pretty cohesive. It was sort of logical. They did try and use some nice linking. Some of the sentences were quite short. So they were doing that candidate thing where you have a sort of like linking word, comma, simple sentence. Linking word, comma, simple sentence. So they were kind of doing that a little bit. But I think this would come out as 6.5 for me. Vocabulary, they used some really nice phrases. Sometimes not quite correctly, but I would say vocabulary coming out at a 7. Grammar, I thought their grammar was pretty good. There was some issues, mostly in the introduction. So a little bit of some issues. And there's a little bit of tense issues in body 1, but there wasn't anything major. So I probably want to give the grammar a 6.5. And overall, so coming out around a 6.5 level, I think is good for this candidate. I definitely think their task achievement can improve a lot by expanding and explaining. And part of that is just being able to write a little bit faster so that you can, get more down on the page and explain a bit more. And then also I would just get them to look at those couple of grammar issues that I picked out. Okay, so write a bit more, check your grammar a bit more carefully, and then I easily think that this candidate can hit a 7 or higher.